Hello and welcome back to another electronics installation video for a Proton pack today. And specifically today we have a collection of various bits and bobs from Frutto Technology, our old pals at Frutto again. So what they have sent is a prototype, I guess, but I think it's just about ready to go out to customers. It will be available very soon anyway. And it's an enhancement pack. Let me just zoom in or zoom out slightly. So what I was going to say is the base enhancement pack consists of this board here that has two momentary switches already attached to it. It will become clear soon what they are for, but essentially one is to change colors and one is to change mode. Now this board is going to run in conjunction with the stock board that's inside the Hasbro pack, and we're going to switch around a few cables. So that's part one that you can get. Part two that will come with this as well is some new lights for the Cyclotron. So these are, as you can probably tell, got a whole bunch of LEDs on there, rather than just 3 per circle that you'll see now. And again, that's to add some enhancements to the features there by well, looking a hell of a lot better. So that's the idea behind those, and those are also RGB. And the third final part is a replacement cyclotron lights. Not cyclotron lights, forgive me, Powercell lights, and again RGB. So there's the sort of 3 main bits, and then you can also add to it, if you wish, like an upgrade or add-on parts. You can get the inner cyclotron ring light, so that will be fitted inside the cake, as they call it, inside the cyclotron. So we'll be doing that too. Not done that before, so that would be interesting. These are the internal control panel lights, and there's also a printed sort of case for them to slot into. Now, that doesn't exist on the 84 as is. I'll obviously show you where that all goes, but if you do own or have seen the HasLab Afterlife pack, you will see that it's still a dummy, there's no lights in it, but it did have a couple of switches near it for changing the mode. But if you look inside the cyclotron, when you take the lid off and everything, you'll see that there's that panel that looks a bit similar to that in there with the blanks in. So we're going to actually put real working lights in there, which you may have seen on other packs. There are other people that do them too. So those are the various bits that we are going to plug in and get working. Now, like I say, most of it, at least the sort of I guess standard configuration that you get, is fairly straightforward to sort of you know, actually, to be fair, I do know sort of what's coming up with some of this, and straightforward might not be quite the right word, but I'm going to do my best to show you how to install these to the best of my ability. So that's what we're here to do today.
We had the tools, we had the talent.
Okay, here she is. Yeah, I've to really zoom out to get that in. As always, excuse my wonderful, amazing setup. Not too distant future, I'll have a dedicated setup for these kind of videos, but that's for a future time. Now, this is my pack. Yours will look similar, but this has had a complete repaint. It's got different labels on, real parts, all sorts of stuff and that. But again, that's a video for another day. But the main thing we need to do, first of all, is get into the back of the pack so we can test out the electrics, make sure they're all working how we want before we start taking things apart. Now, if you've never got into or opened up your Hasbro packs before, whether it's this one or the previous, it's not too tricky at all. It's just tedious and annoying. But I'm not going to sort of show you the entire process. I'm just going to explain it to you. No one wants to watch me unscrew 16 screws. First things you do need to do is take off the entirety of the cyclotron. So we'll take off the lid first, and we'll just show that quickly. Slide that off. We can move those parts to one side. I should just undo my hose. So we take off the lid. And we need to take out the cake from the inside, which is just a single nut there. That will pop out, and the reason we have to do that first of all is because of this bolt which is attached to the motherboard at the back. So without that you're not going to get that off. Then all that's left is to flip this over, and on the back you will see there are, I think if I remember rightly, and I've done this so many times you'd think I'd know by now, but there are 16 screws all dotted around this board, some deeper than others. These two on the far left that are next to each other are slightly smaller than the others, but all the others are the same size. So just keep those two to themselves. Take all of those screws out, and then you want to start slowly popping the back off. Work your way around the edges until it pops away from the main Proton pack. You want to be opening it, if you're looking down now as we are here, as you get that loosened off, you want to sort of be lifting it that way towards the battery bay, because there is a cable there, a wire there plugged in. So if you're too sort of too hasty and not paying attention, you could pull that away potentially and break it. Also, this one here directly below the battery bay is the screwed into a peg that's extremely long and slotted into on the back of this. So this might be one of your most stubborn parts pulling it out, because you kind of have to be lifting up for some way before you can sort of lift away to the right. So something to bear in mind. If you get enough of this off, you can kind of peek in and see what you need to see. But once you've got that back off, you just put that to one side, but be careful again because of that wire. What I tend to do once it's open is disconnect it. Now, previously on the HasLab one, you could do it was just a single cable, unplug, job done. You'll see when you open it up, and I'll show you. When I do, there is a small additional board which has got the USB plug on, but it's only held in by 3 screws. So you just undo those 3 screws, and then you can plug out the entire thing from the main board, and that means you can get rid of this out of the way, so it's not in your way, and you're not running the risk of breaking that wire. So I'm going to take mine off, and we'll cut back to when I've done. Okay, so that's the back off. Now, there might be a couple of differences that you'll see. Now, I've actually already just very crudely chopped off the connector to the battery bay. This is because I have no intention of ever using batteries. I power mine from a talent cell battery, which I will show shortly. So I've just got rid of that because it was just frustrating the amount of times I have to go in and out of here to do things and to fit things, and constantly having to undo this board. Now, for you, if it's the first time, and I'll just zoom in so you can see what I mean. So yeah, this bit here is the bit I was talking about, where the snack compartment is and your USB plug. You'll see there's just a small board here. Get it to focus. Might be easier if I just move the camera instead. But just under there, it's a small board, 3 screws held in. So you can just pop those out. Then that board will be loose, and if you follow the coloured cable that comes out of it, you'll see it's plugged into the board, the main PCB, just over there, just here, and you can just pull that and pop it out and take away the back, the motherboard, so it's out your way. You may also see here I've got 2 additional screws and washers that you won't have when you open up your pack. That is because these are to replace 2 screws that go through the motherboard. Typically they hold on the filler tube and the beamline tube. Otherwise you'll notice when you've taken the back off, those will have plonked and dropped to the floor, because that's how they're held on. And that again is, you know, if you're like me and going in and out of the pack constantly doing modifications and changes, so annoying that they're falling off all the time. So I got around that by just securing them permanently to the main Proton pack via these screws and washers. So I don't have to worry about that again. Anywho, so that's the back off. Now we're going to plug everything in. And I'll show you how that's done. And we're just going to test everything and how it works. Look at the functionality. Then we'll move on to actually fitting all those different bits that go in different parts of the pack. Right, let's get everything plugged in, set up as it comes. I will just show you a couple of things. At the top of the board here, there's a white one. You'll see it's empty already. This is where the current Powercell lights live. I've taken that out already because I'm going to be plugging the new ones into the new board. If you don't want to use or don't get the new Cyclotron light, Powercell lights, you can leave the stock ones that come with Hasbro pack in here. Don't unplug it and plug it into the new board. It won't work or fit. You can just leave it plugged in here. To the left of that is the cable for, let me just bring it in, this green one here, is the cable for the Cyclotron lid disconnect. So whenever you pick up or take off the Cyclotron lid, that is what that's for. I've already unplugged that just to show this bit here. Now your kit will come with a small jumper. It will look a little bit like this, maybe not quite the same because that one's mine. But once you disconnect this green cable, we don't replace it with a different one in here. We leave it as it is, but we do need to put this jumper on the far two left prongs, the two grounds, just to bridge them together. Really important step. But that's it for what the for that part there. If we bring in the board, have a quick look at that for the moment. Get that to zoom in. Screen printed underneath, you can see all the ports are clearly labelled. So if you ever get a bit unsure, for the most part, there's kind of only a one size for each thing. However, if you're unsure, you can refer to under there. And if we take a look on the top as it comes, we've got our two mode switches here, which will demonstrate what they do later. We'll leave those plugged in exactly where they are. And then we have 1, 2, 3 pre-installed cables that are going to loop back into our board here for the ones we take out. So we shall first of all start with our green one, since we've already unplugged that. That's going to go into this red one in the center, and again if you look underneath it will just say cyclotron detector. So I'm going to plug that one into there first of all, like so. Then in fact no, I'll leave the Powercell till last just so it's not in my way. What we're going to do on next is the USB power cable, which is this bottom one here, the black, red and yellow cable. If we unplug that, you can see here we have another 3-pin connector ready installed, and it's going to want to go in adjacent to that. And again, just to check underneath, you'll see it's labelled USB. So we push that one into there, and the one that's already pre-installed can go back in where we just took that cable out, like so. So that leaves two more on this board here. I'll just make a bit of room so you can see. So the two we're going to do now is the middle one, which you can see is trailing off up to the top to the power switch, the on and off switch. You need to do that one. And the one just to the left of it here, the red and blue one, which is for the ribbon disconnect feature. So we'll start with the power on and off, and we're going to plug that into the corresponding black one here. And again, if you look underneath, that one's labelled SW1 just as it is on the Hasbro board. So we can bring that in and plug that in, and get like so. And again, like the other one we just did, there is a pre-installed cable just adjacent to it. That needs to go back in where we just took that one out. So I'll do that next, like so. And that just leaves that final ribbon disconnect one. So pull that one out, unplug that. And if we have a look round to our, oh, that's not quite in properly. If we have a look here, you'll see our ribbon disconnect is the one here. the ribbon board. Again, it's labelled underneath. We can plug that one in like so, and once again use that pre-installed one to go back in where we just took that one out. There we go. So that is the main setup between the two boards. If we now get our brand new Cyclotron Powercell lights, I don't know why I keep calling them Cyclotron lights. Where are those? Here we go. So that will come like this with a cable to go with it. So you need to plug one end of the cable into the lights. It only goes into one end. And we'll plug these, again, just a reminder, not where it was on the original board, but where it is on our new board, which I believe is that one. Let's have a look. Powercell, yeah. It's the one on the far right here in the middle. It should only be the only one left that you can fit it in anyway. So let's get that in, like so. And that final port, this one here, is not used for anything here. And our final port is this one here in the top corner. Now that is for the add-ons. So in my case, that is for our inner cyclotron light and our control panel lights, which are all wired into a single connector, which I am going to plug in now. You may not have this, so not to worry if you don't. But as I'm here, I'm going to get that plugged in. Like so. So that's everything set up, ready to test. Well, I say ready to test. We're going to move on next to installing the brand new Cyclotron lights, because I want to test everything all in one go. So that's what we'll be doing next. But in theory, you could at least now test that the cyclotron's working and you've got power in general and haven't broken anything. Just a couple of other notes on this smaller board, the Frutto board. You'll see that there's a little switch, left and right switch. If you look underneath, it's labelled. One will say D battery or D cell, I think it is, and the other is USB. It's a throwback to a previous version when you could run it off batteries. I mentioned earlier you can't. It's USB power only. So just make sure that that switch is pushed in the right direction. Otherwise it won't work. Final check here. Again, assuming you've got these same switches here. Just down here, you need to make sure there's like 4 little gate switches. Make sure all of those are pushed down to the left outwards. Otherwise, again, if one of those is moved in transit or whatever reason, it won't work. And I believe that's just for debugging. So leave all those switches down. But that's everything plugged in. And that should all be working now. So we'll move on to installing the cyclotron lid lights, the new ones, and then we'll be able to do a full test of the electrics once all that's done.
Set your entry grid, neutralize your field, and the light is green, crap is clean.
Okay, so just a quick jump cut. Before we can test out those electrics, we do need to put our new cyclotron lights in, because I'm not entirely sure if it will work with the stock one, but I'm not willing to find out. So we're going to have to crack open this baby, which is not the easiest thing to do, but it's also not particularly difficult. It's just a slight leap of faith you're required. If we turn it upside down, you can see there's this gap all the way around the edge. Now this section is essentially just glued on, and there are sort of a handful of posts all the way around where it's been glued. And the idea here is that you sort of get some leverage underneath and work your way around and gently break those glue seals as you work your way around. It can sound daunting and it can sound like you're breaking things. You're not, and you're not going to break anything. You just have to gently work your way around. Now, you might find that some of it's loose already, just depends. But you are going to sort of need to get a pick, a guitar pick, or a screen pick remover like they've got here. And you can kind of just get underneath and start to work your way around and prise it up, prise it up, prise it up as you go around, get some more in, wedge it in, get something a bit bigger so you can leverage it, and so on and so on. So yeah, you kind of just have to do that and work your way around. When you do this bit here, where the 4 pins are, be careful because there's some wiring under there. And what you don't want to do, of course, is slice that wiring. But that's really the process. I'm going to kind of do that now, really. I'm going to do it a bit quicker because that's going to be incredibly boring to watch and also could take some considerable time. But I'm going to do it now. Right, that's that finally out. It is not easy to do. You just have to take your time and just be careful. Looking under there, you can see these are the 4 wires you're trying to avoid slicing. You'll also be able to see these little peg areas here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's 5, and there's 6 there. That is kind of what you're trying to get to. So you're trying to get underneath there, and what I was doing is getting enough underneath so I can slide this in here, feeling for it with this, and then sort of twisting gently. And you'll hear a distinct pop or crack noise as you do it, and you'll know that you've successfully broke through. So just work your way around very gently, and eventually all of those will pop out, like so. So these are the stock ones, and these are what we're going to replace with our new set. So we'll come to that in just a moment. There's something I did want to mention while we have this all open. We've got our 4 lens here, which are red, as they come like that. That's obviously just for effect. Now, what we do want to do to get the full benefit from this kit is to replace these with dark tinted ones. So a smoky grey or black acrylic. You could do that with a sort of photo lens, or you can get some acrylic yourself and cut it to size. Equally, you can purchase these from Etsy and from GP Star themselves, which will just replace these. They are designed to fit in where these are. The reason for that is the lights that we're going to be putting in are RGB, so they're going to mimic the video game colours. The green, the red, the blue, and the orangey now, or the yellow, depending how you look at it. But with the red lens in, if you don't change them, you're not really going to be able to sort of get the benefit of that. The red will work fine, but the rest will kind of not really look at, how they're supposed to, which is why we need to replace them with black. Now, I don't have that yet. It's on its way, but that's what I will be doing. And once I have that, I will just chuck in a quick edit to show you what the effect looks like. But so for now, I'm just going to replace these and just test the functionality. Of course, the other beauty of doing that, apart from the obvious and making the works, the lights look lovely, is the fact it looks a bit more like the actual screen packs, which if you have a look online at reference photos, you'll see that they don't have red lenses, they are black. So I can pop that to one side for now. And my other bits and bobs, clear a bit of space. So yeah, we're going to get these new ones wired in, which are here, look, and that's going to be our next task. Then what we're going to do, just thinking about it, I'm not going to put this back on, just thinking ahead, by the way, that you'll probably have to put a bit of a dab of glue back on that to keep that sealed up. Sometimes they fit back together nicely and hold together, but it varies pack to pack. But for now, I'm going to swap these out, wire in the new ones, and what we'll want to do then is test the electrics to see if they're working before we do any further work. So we will need to sort of put this back on the pack just so that the contacts here make contact with the pack. So otherwise we're going to have sort of all sorts of things going wrong. So let's go and have a look at that now. If we have a look at these plastic covers we've got here, you'll notice on each one there are like two little tabs poking out. You just make them visible. If you sort of go in from that angle, you should be able to just lift those out like so. Look, and we'll put those to one side because they will hold in our new ones, so we don't want to lose those. Right, that one's making a break for it. So just work your way around, pop those all out. That will give us access to our LEDs. Out you come. This one doesn't want to come out. Let's try from the other side. Nope. There we go. Okay, to get these stock LEDs out, we should be able to just knock the tops off these sort of posts here. I'm going to give that a go. I believe that should work. He says. Yeah, that one's kind of come off. Again, I'm not too bothered about damaging what we've got because I don't plan on keeping them, obviously, because we're replacing them. Just going to work my way around and get those off.
2 hours later.
There we go. So that's all of those out. Just like so. Now, if we have a look at our new ones, obviously of which we have 4, there are some things to consider. It does come with our wire that we need to use. There's enough here to chain these together in much the same way that they are here in a chain like that. But we are going to have to do a little bit of soldering. You could sort of link the wires together and all that. I prefer to solder because I want to make sure it's secure. But basically what we're going to do, and you may already notice that we only have 3 wires, which is fine for these, but there are 4 going into it. We've kind of essentially got 2 grounds, which is the brown and the orange, I want to say. I will double check before I tell you what to do. But basically what we're going to do is we're going to snip these off, well, desolder these, get rid of these, and we're going to solder on our new ones to the power and to our data, which is the signal, and to our ground. But before we get to that, the rest of it is fairly straightforward because you can see that we have our little gates on here all ready to go. They are labelled ground and VDD for the power and DO for the data. I'd recommend that we use red for the power, that we use the green for the ground, and that we use the white for the data signal. And we're just going to evenly slice up this wire, strip it so that we can expose the wire underneath. And these little gates I've just got a tiny screw on. We'll open those up, pop our wires in each one, screw those down, and do that for each of them before we go for reconnecting it to our existing switches there. Also, unlike these new Hasbro ones, which is just a orientation of 3 that come on all at once, these, if you look at each one, are sort of angled, a row of LEDs, as you can see. So when it comes to putting these back in, we are going to have to be careful and make sure they are orientated in such a way that we do get that consistent circular motion of the lights. So again, we'll come to that when we get to that part. But the first thing I'm going to do is divvy up this wire and get these 4 sets of cyclotron lights all lined up and chained together just like that one. So that's what we're going to do next. Right then, we've got our 4 cyclotron lights all wired in. So a couple of things with this. They can go in any sequence. They're not numbered 1 to 4 or anything. However, when you're wiring them up, there is an in and out. Jarring intercut from Future J here doing a quick voiceover. At this point in the video, I then proceed to waffle on for quite some time, explaining how to make sure that you've got the 4 different sets of lights orientated correctly so that you can wire them in the correct way. I didn't have in front of me at the time the instructions that showed how to do that, and I came up with a very convoluted way of remembering the best way to do it. However, as you can see on the screen now, this is how you wire them in. There is a DI for in and a DO for out. And as long as your wires are going in that sequence, in, then out, then in, then out, they will work absolutely fine. So, back to the video where we plug in the rest of it. This bit at the other end, I've done a temporary job here at the minute. Now, on the previous Proton pack by Hasbro, the HasLab, these 4 wires were slightly further apart, which made it a bit easier to get at them and desolder them. And you've actually got 2 grounds here on the left. Now, the original plan was I was going to desolder those, link them with a piece of wire across the 2, and then solder my green ground directly onto it here. But it's just really tight, really cramped in there. My eyesight's not the best, so if you want to desolder it and do that, feel free. Equally, I did have a go at desoldering the data cable, the signal one, and the power, which are the 2 on the right, but that solder would not come off for me. Not entirely sure why. So I've kind of hacked it, and it's not the best way to do it as always, but I've cut those 4 wires. I have soldered the correct ones on. So my ground is soldered into the 2 ground, all joined up together. My power is soldered into my power, which is the orange one here. And my white one is soldered into, also it's the yellow one, the power. And my white, which is sort of the signal, is wired and soldered onto the orange one. And if you're ever unsure, if I can get that to focus, focus. It is written down here, top to bottom, representing top to bottom, what each one of those is. Okay, so I've done that and I've taken that to the side for now, because we do actually have to put the lid back on. But before we do all that, we're going to do some testing. And I will point out as well, I did trim these wires down even more. Frutto give you plenty, so it wasn't a case of splitting those into 4 equal parts, because they were still too long. So I've cut those down to size. There are some channels that run through that you can tape the wires down to, and also where they sit there's quite a deep recess, so if there's any excess wire you can tuck that in there. To put these back on, when we come to do that, we can put a bit of super glue or hot glue to dab onto those posts to secure that back down here. Of course, we will be careful to make sure that we orientate them so we've got that circular motion between the 4. And then we can pop our diffusers back on. But we'll come to that after we've done an electronics test. So I'm going to put this to one side. We're going to bring back in the Proton pack.
We really haven't had a completely successful test of this equipment.
I blame myself.
So do I.
Okay, right, let's try and get everything in view for the purpose of this demo. Here's our new Powercell lights. Here's our 2 function switches. I've put a piece of tape there temporarily, so I know which one is which. One's labelled P coal, the other's labelled a C coal. I'll show you what they do in a moment. We do have our other lights, which I'll demonstrate afterwards. Now they will pop on, you'll probably see them. I'm going to turn them over so you can't see them yet. And then we've got our cyclotron lid, just this bit here. So we shall pop that on, make sure those pins are connected. Just need to turn these over so we can see them as best I can. They're dying to twist over, but as long as we've got a couple of those in sight, we can have a look at those. Okay, and we can't use batteries, as I mentioned. So we do need, and I do recommend, a talent cell. You can get these from Amazon. They are relatively cheap. I believe this is a 3000 milliamp. But these things will last all day, keep the pack running all day. So we're going to plug this into our USB slot, like so. Now, there are two things you can do before we power anything on. We can give power to the boards by turning our talent cell on, and then we have an option here, and this is where these switches first get used. So our P coil is our mode whilst the pack is off, but we are giving it power with the talent cell. And if we press that, you'll see those red lights light up, and that will tell us what mode we're in, which is 84 or afterlife. So if I press it again, single light in the middle, that means we're in 84 mode. Press it again, and all lit up, which means afterlife mode. We're just going to test the straightforward 84 mode for now, so press that once more. Hello there, voiceover Jay once again. At this point I did say the wrong thing about the second button. I said it changes, gives you a preview of what's going on. It doesn't, just changes the direction of the lights, either clockwise or anti-clockwise. Anyway, back to the video. Okay, so if we now power on, we can check everything's working. So first of all, our power cell's working. Excellent. And if we look over here, I'll just bring them into shot a bit more. You can see that we have our 84 sequence going around like so, all lit up, absolutely fine, all working nicely. Now these might not seem so bright on camera, or they might not, but again we can put our diffuser on and that will broaden that light. So that's that part working. So now we can test some of the additional functionality before we look at the other lights, just while I have them plugged in. So again, the main one we want to use here again is the P-coil one, which I've just stuck this tape on. This will change our colours of LEDs. So I'm going to keep this red one in view here. And we press it once. Now we've got yellow. And this is just for the cyclotron at the moment. And press it again, we've got blue. And I believe there's 7 colours, maybe a bit more. 7, I'm sure there's 7. There's blue, I think that's a purple. Don't press the button too quick, just leave a small delay between each press. That appears to be a white. There's a red. There's the green. And there's back to our blue. If we press the other one, this will do the cyclotron lights. So there's the green, there's blue, there's the Meson yellow. I think it's a Meson blaster that's yellow. Or was that the blue one? Yeah, blue's the other one. I can never quite remember off the top of my head, but there's some blue, there's some purple, there's white, and then we should be back to red, I think. Yeah, there we go, red. So that's those, which is all working nicely, which is great. Now, just so you can see how the other two panels work, you'll notice that neither of them on at the moment, and that's because they're designed to kick in. Let's see if we can get those to balance when you remove the cyclotron lid. So if we were to take that off, we now have our inner panels working, like so. We also have the inner cyclotron cake light mimicking the outer lights. To give that impression, obviously, when it's set up, that the source of these lights is coming from there. Okay, so let's just power off and we'll just check these inner ones again in afterlife mode. You'll see the lights will stay on just for a second or two, and then we'll all power down. So again, going back to our button here, we're going to press that, which will change the mode, and we'll power back on. And you'll see this time that inner cyclotron light slowly speeds up. There's a slightly different sequence here. That's all buzzing away now. And obviously these won't be working because you would have the lid off. But the moment we pop our lid back on, get that out of the way. Ta-dum! That happens. Everything off, these are all spinning away nicely, like so. And they go off. So that is perfect. They are all working as intended, which is great. So I'm just going to power that off. And that's the testing bit. So next, and again for this part of the video, we're going to move on to just showing you how to install the Powercell light and putting this back together before we do anything else. Okay, so the first thing we want to do to get us access to where the current Powercell lights live is to remove the side panel. There's a single screw just tucked down inside here. Let me zoom in, just down here. I've already taken it out and it wandered off down under here somewhere, so I need to just dig that out in a moment. Once you've taken that screw out, that entire side panel will lift out and be out of your way. So we can move that out of the way, and I'll just zoom back out. And then if we have a look down here, so this is a slightly frustrating part next. So we've got a screw here and a screw here, and that's what's covering up our Powercell light. So we can take those out. I can't recall, because it's been a while since I did it, if I then have to take off the entirety of this side, because I think it's covering the sort of bottom section of it there, which makes it difficult to get out. My gut says I have to take that out, which is not easy. Well, it's awkward more than, but it's difficult because this is all one piece that's held on by two screws down here. Let me just zoom in so you can see them down here, and at the dodgy angles you can't get a screwdriver in, so you need a right angle one or a flexible one to take those out. And then we can take off the injector tubes completely, which is attached to this entire door section here. And if we just flip it onto its side, there's two further screws there. So once you've got that all off, you'll be able to pull this off quite easily. But before we get ahead of ourselves, I'm going to take the two out first of all that are hiding our Powercell light away, and see if I actually have to do that, because I can't remember. But we might be lucky, we might get away with it. We might get away with it. Let's just take those two screws out of the way. We're not going to get away with it. So we're going to have to take that bit off. I thought we did. I'm having horrible flashbacks to when I did it before my other pack. So let's get those out. Now I'm going to take the two out here first of all, and then I'm going to get at these ones here. I'm going to do that off camera. Okay, so I've actually got this little flexible bit for goes onto one of my other screwdrivers, but I could bend that in, get those two screws out. They're holding the two tubes on, and I've taken the two out the top, and then that will come away. Just give it a bit of a wiggle. There we go. Look, and you'll see that entire thing is one piece, and that comes away. But it does mean finally we can get at our Powercell light. That will now pop off and come away. And if you flip that over, you'll see the stock Hasbro one tucked away just in there. Now, much like our Cyclotron lights, you'll see that there's a couple of four plastic posts slightly squished at the top to keep it in place. And again, we just need to prise that off, flip that out, and we can get rid of that, unless you're keeping it. So I'm going to do that now. And if we look down there as well, you'll also see this, which is our, it's in two parts. So that's our diffuser, our blue one that sits in there. We're going to replace that with a different coloured one. That just sits over the top to help keep the light in position. So we're going to leave those there for now because, again, I don't have what I need yet to replace that. Now the difference I think with this one, because we've got that clear backing that holds it down, we can actually just exchange that for a piece of black plastic photo lens rather than a thick piece of acrylic. So it'll be easier to cut and fit in, and that won't be a problem. But again, I don't have that right now, because that's something I'll do next. But for now, let's get this out, and we'll put our new one in. Okay, so yeah, so once you break those tabs, that will come out. It has got this little ring on for some reason. I can't remember why. So I have to mess about and get that out, and before you can get it through, which is a bit of a pain. I think it's to stop discharge or something. I can't quite remember. Or interference from other things, but I think it's a bit of an overkill for this. I've never reused it on anything else I've done, so it's probably just an in case of rather than a necessity. Anyway, once that's off, we can get our old Powercell out with a bit of luck. Ooh, bang my camera. There we go. We've got our frame back. So if we locate our new one, just gone run around again. Where have we gone? So many wires now, I keep losing everything. Come on, there's your Powercell light. We found it. Okay, so if we have a look at this, you'll see that we're obviously going to have to unplug this to get it in, but you can see it's got 4 posts again, which will line up where the old one was, which is handy. We will, and I will recommend this, because I've fallen foul to this before, do a quick test with power to make sure when you put it back it's going the right direction before you seal it all up. But yeah, you just need to unplug this, put our new one in, just in there, covering those 4 posts. Probably need to put a little dab of glue there on each part just to keep it secure. And then that goes back in there and we put everything back together. So that's quite a simple-ish process. I'm not going to put mine back just yet because I'm going to wait till I can replace that. And I don't want to have to undo all of that again. But hopefully you get the idea of what to do and you can just put all that back. What we will do, if I, depending how fast everything comes, so I'll cut to having that, and I'll cut to then actually putting everything tidy here and doing a bit of cable management, sorting out our board, fitting our little mode switches in, and everything else. So that's what I'm going to do. Yeah, it's me again. Just a quick one to say that this little bit at the end of the video is just some extra bits to show you how to fit, or some tips and tricks rather, on how to put the inner cyclotron lights in and the control panel lights. So I hope you find it useful. Well, if you have stuck around till the end of the video, it's because you're interested in what I've done with the inner cyclotron lights and the control panel that are add-ons to the kit that we've just installed. I was going to make a part 2, and I said earlier in the video I was going to make a part 2 because I felt that it might drag the video out a bit too long. However, when I actually came to do those 2 bits of work, I realised actually it wasn't particularly taxing or time consuming, and I didn't really need to show you everything, just tell you kind of basically what to do, give you some pointers. So dealing with the inner cyclotron lights, so as a reminder, that's those. They go inside the cake that comes inside the pack. Let me just zoom out a bit so we can see that. Here we go, that. You have 3 choices you can do with this. You can keep this one and it will work fine with this. Around these edges, there is a lip where you can see it's a lid all the way around. That's glued on. You can, if you get a fine pick, like a, what you call them, guitar pick, that kind of thing, you can work your way around and slowly prise that glue apart. Some areas are tougher than others. You might end up breaking it. Results vary, essentially. I got away with it. You can just probably see some light edges where it's sort of bent a bit, but it's fine. And then that pops off the lid. And if you install the lights into here, carefully position those, and you'll need to drill a hole into the side to feed this wire through. Believe it or not, this plastic is so thin that they shine through absolutely fine. I will do a quick demonstration just so you can see what I mean. Let me just turn it on. Bear with. Where are we at? Can't find the power switch with my hand. Yeah. There you go. So you should be able to see that. It's a little brighter actually in real life. And actually, if you secure those lights higher up, then obviously they will be brighter. But it does work fine, and they do shine through. Let me just take that out. Option 2 is you do exactly the same thing again, except you cut out these sort of 4 panel areas here, and then replace that with a piece of sort of transparent perspex, maybe frosted, but something a bit more see-through. I've seen people do that, and that would create an even better effect, like a diffused look, but also show the lights even brighter. That's option 2. Option 3, of course, is go and buy a brand new cake, inner cake, which you can get from a couple of sellers on Etsy, and some of those are designed specifically to work well with inner cyclotron lights. So those are your options. And you just looking at the pack as it is here, I mean, it shouldn't be too tricky to figure out that we just need to make sure that wire travels down. And down here, actually, if we look, try not to knock everything over. Down here, where the back of the cyclotron is, we'll need to drill a hole into the side around about here, so we can feed the wire into where the cyclotron is. And we're going to have to do that hole anyway, so we can fit our control panel LEDs, which will be in the next segment straight after this, where I'll show you how to take that back off and where to put the holes and where to put the control panel itself. So that's it as far as the inner cyclotron is concerned. It's not difficult to install. It's just about what option you want to take when you do install it. So that's that one. Now onto the control panel. Okay, second part of this little extra bit at the end of the video. We're going to look at where we put the holes in to feed the lights through to our control panel. Now this is the back of the cyclotron. There are many more screws, but those to hold other bits in. But there are 4 outer screws in each of the sort of corners, if you like, of a circle, even if that is possible. If you just take those screws out, this entire panel will pop out, and then you'll be able to see the remainder of the shell. There it is, our wires to our cyclotron disconnect, and this one over here is our ribbon disconnect. Leave those as is. If we turn it over, I'm going to be careful because I'm going to lose some screws when I do. There goes 1, there goes 2. So if we turn this over, you can see, and I'll get my bearings, so imagine turning it around from that side, you'll notice opposite the end filter, where the end filter goes, I should say, there's this large gap here, and there's even a kind of raised ridge, and that's a blank, where on the previous, the HasLab, is where the control panel, the fake dummy control panel sat. And there were a couple of switches for changing the modes. Now, this is our printed shell for containing the new LEDs and the board, which gets screwed onto the back there. Now, I had a little play with this earlier, and I forget the orientation. But either way, that kind of just plops in. It's obviously loose. It's gone a bit better now I've done that. But my point is that shouldn't be too difficult to secure. You could even do it with some hot glue. You could even do it with a couple of screws. It's entirely up to you. I'm not going to say one way or another which the best way to do is, but it fits quite snugly. It's just about how you want to secure it. So that obviously means that here is where we want to drill a hole to allow our cable through, so that's our control panel. So that needs to feed through. And obviously we also need the other part of that, which is this one here, for that, because that needs to be able to come through into here and into our inner cake. So it's not a tricky process. Again, it's more about personal preference and how you want to dress it up. If we look at these two just very briefly, obviously they line up in the holes, but also you'll notice there's three screw holes there, three corresponding holes on there. You'll just need to get yourself, they didn't come with it, but get yourself just three very small short screws just to secure that in place. And that will sit, well, be the opposite side, be over there inside your panel. So that's it really. It's not, again, not like I say, it's not tricky. You've just got to figure out the best way to secure that. This does also come with, how many are there through? 4, 6, 8 of these, which are small little plastic lens covers for the LEDs, and they push fit into each of those holes. Make sure you obviously do that in conjunction with the 8 LEDs that are there. You'll notice there are 10 holes and not 8, and that's because the other 2, well, typically would be for switches. You'd have 2 switches installed there, 2 little on-off switches, which you could use for whatever you want really. Obviously it was modelled on the HasLab, and the HasLab had 2 physical switches there, and then these dummy lights. So really it's up to you what you want to do with them. You could, if you really wanted to, if you know your electrics, you could wire in a couple more LEDs, just piggyback off the power of the others, and just have some static lights or some blinking ones, whatever you want really. Or you can fit a couple of switches, or even you could go as far as extending the wires on the 2 mode switches for the main board up here and have those accessible there. Downside of that, of course, is every time you want to change mode or change colour, you've got to open up the lid, take everything off and get inside. So it's not ideal, but just pointing it out, there will be 2 spaces. It's up to you what you do with them. But that's it for the control panel lights as well. Final cut will be everything together and working. There'll have been one already, which is just the main stuff put back together with the lights and the cyclotron lid and all the business. And then we'll just have a quick final cut where I demonstrate all this installed, up and running, working, and we're all good to go. Excellent. I'll see you at the end.
I hate this. I like to torture him. That's right, boys. It's Dr. Venkman.
Okay, so it's been a couple of days and switching to a hand-free experience, so I can just talk you through everything I finished doing and the final operation of this enhancement kit. So yeah, let's have a quick of a nose. So everything's put back together. I fitted my black filter over that, and also, as you saw earlier anyway, we've done it on the lenses too. So that's our preparation to make sure the colours are all good. Just in here, this is kind of a temporary thing for me because I did a fancy one on the other pack, and I'll probably do that in due course on this, but I've kind of put my talent cell inside there, cut a wee hole out so that I can get access to the USB out for power and to charge it, of course, just there. And I fitted the 2 switches that come with the enhancement kit just there. Now I haven't labelled them, so I can't tell you which one I'm pressing, but it's quite self-explanatory and it's in the instructions. But let's have a look then. So I think the first thing to note is if we have the power on for the talent cell or whatever battery you're choosing to use, if we have that on but the pack's switched off, we can do a couple of things with these buttons for modes. So the top one Actually, we'll start with the bottom one. Again, forgive me, I forget which one they're labelled. But the bottom one, or one of the buttons, as you can see there, look, it's switching between 84 mode and afterlife mode. So that's your two choices. I think we'll leave it in afterlife mode. And then if you use the other button, it changes the direction and you get a brief little preview as to which way it's going. So we'll leave that clockwise for now and turn on our power. Let's go turn the volume down. No one wants to listen to that now. So Powercell working fine, lights speeding up nicely there, like so. Now from this point of view, each of those buttons changes the colour either of the Powercell or the cyclotron lights. And if we use the top one, you can see that's changed into green, to blue, to yellow, I don't know what that is, teal, sort of a purpley colour, white, and back to red. And the top one, same sort of thing, changes and goes through the colours. So you can match up to video game modes if you want, and there's a couple of extra colours as well for funs. So yeah, you could have it in slime mode if you want, and pop your one in slime mode. We're back to blue. There we go. So that's those bits. And then we can, bear with me, caller. Now my new ribbon cable clamps a little bit loose, so it's possible as I take this off that the lights will stop turning because it'll think it's disconnected. So I might have to just carefully push that back in. But if you pop that off, as you can see, it did indeed fail. So let me just push that back in. So yeah, so here's our internals, should you opt to go for them. So yeah, there's my inner cyclotron cake. These bits I dremeled and cut out, and I've glued in some frosted perspex or plastic lenses there. You can see it through the lights anyway, but this just adds to that, makes it even clearer. So I quite like that. There's lots I want to do on this bit anyway, painting and replacing bits, but all good for now. I like that. And down there's our control panel lights. I did some paint job and some weathering on that printed piece. And they're all working way nicely. I also fitted, as I mentioned before, a couple of dummy switches down there in the two spare holes. They don't do anything, but should I ever want them to do something, they can. So I left the wires on. And just like the external cyclotron lights, if I hit the right button, these also change colour in exactly the same way. So you can make sure that those are matched up. Of course, they'll change anyway. So, and there you go. That is the full kit working. I think there's been a couple of refinements to the kit since I tested this one out. So should you choose to order that, do read the listing on Frutto's website. I'll send a link in the description along with links of all the other bits that I mentioned. And yeah, a nice little bit of kit. Probably the hardest bit to do really is the cyclotron lights. As you saw, that was just, it's a bit more fiddly, but it's not difficult. You just need to take your time. But everything else is absolutely fine. And if you just want to, enhance the standard or the starting point of the 84 kit and just make it a bit more exciting, it's quite a nice little option. And of course, because these parts are compatible with other bits and bobs like GP Star, you can always build out from it and reuse them should you want to expand your electrics in the future. But we'll leave it there. Hope you found that useful. Let me know how you get on in the comments should you choose to get this at any point. If you have any questions, of course, or if I've missed something or not covered it, please do drop me a message or a comment. And until next time, see you soon. Thank you. So thanks everyone for watching. I hope you found that useful. I know it's a bit of a long video, but it's one of those things. There's lots of little complicated bits, and I do like to be quite thorough in making sure you all know what to do and learning from my mistakes. But in the meantime, thanks for that. Leave some comments if you've got anything you need to ask, and I will do my best to get back to you. If you are visiting MCM Comic Con in Birmingham this August on the 7th and 8th and the 9th, do come along and see us at the West Midland Ghostbusters alongside our good friends the East Midlands Ghostbusters. We are there all weekend. We have a huge display, lots of fun, lots of busting and lots of surprises. So come along, say hello, have a photo with us and meet all our friends. Hope you have a good time and we'll see you again soon.